What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for yet another album review for you guys. This one of the big ones that came out this weekend, and you know what? I wanted to do this one because, well, I've reviewed this band's last two albums, so why not talk about their latest release? And that is, of course, I am talking about Colorado-based technical death metal band Allegaeon and their album Damnum. I believe that's how you say it, Damnum. So, don't think I really need to go into a background history about this band, considering for those long-time viewers of my channel that have watched my metal stuff for a while, would know that I have reviewed the last two albums that this band has done, Apoptosis, which was the last one, and Proponent of Sentience, which came out in 2016. Apoptosis came out in 2019. And I've been a fan of this band ever since I discovered them on Proponent of Sentience back in 2016. Though, granted, I haven't gone back to those albums as much as I probably should, or really not at all. That's just because I just get caught up in listening to so many other things that I just end up forgetting about it. But now we are here with a new album with Damnum. So, let's get this whole thing started, because there is a lot to talk about with this album. Starting off with the opening track, Bastards of the Earth. Beautiful and mysterious sounding acoustic guitars to kind of set the mood, and there's a little bit of classical flair going on. Then afterwards, straight into some fast tremolo riffs and blast beats and aggression. The chorus on this track actually carries a little more emotion, a little bit more of a melodic weight to it, with some low guttural vocals on top of that chorus. And some of these tremolo riffs that you get on this track have some black metal influence going on. In verse 2, we get a really cool breakdown to add some intensity before the second chorus comes in. Then we get two different lead sections. The first one has these wonderful Iron Maiden melodies going on, and then the second lead section has a little bit more of that technical flair that Allegaeon has been known to produce in the past, but yet they still keep that technicality very melodic based. Some clean vocals even pop in towards the end to bring in more emotional weight to the conclusion of this opening track, and right off the bat, you're getting some classic sounding Allegaeon right here. But then you get into Of Beasts and Worms. Starts off with some kind of Opeth vibes after a dramatic power chord. You get these wonderful acoustic guitars, and the electric guitars kind of have a bit of an organ type sound to it, which adds a little bit more atmosphere. And then the vocals, the first vocals that come in, kind of go into some dark and even gothic terrain before it turns into like soulful, soft, clean vocals. But then after that beginning, things get intense in a big way with a huge guttural growl and heavy riffs to get this train a-rolling. And the verses keep the aggression going, and the verses on this track kind of has a bit of a Blood Red Throne feel to it, kind of like from the last Blood Red Throne album, the way I heard it. The chorus gets really melodic with the guitars and the vocals. With the guitars, it kind of gives it a bit of an Amon Amarth influence, while the vocals remain pretty much clean for the most part in the chorus. But there are gutturals in the background to add some contrast to the cleans. After the second chorus, things turn black metal briefly with the vocals and the blast beats before we get a technical breakdown, leading into a badass lead section that showcases feel, melody, and technicality. Then we go into Embers, some cooler, clean guitar play at the beginning, leading in for the distortion to come in along, and it kind of had a bit of a Soilwork feel to it. And into the verse we go, and it gets heavy and blast beaty. The vocals during the verse kind of goes a little bit into like At the Gates territory, while the chorus maintains a heaviness throughout, adds some subtle melodies in the background, and then the second verse gets even more chaotic, and then an even more brutal, deep, guttural vocal coming in that reminds me of something Frank Mullen or the late great Joe Ficek would have done. So a little bit of an old school / brutal death metal feel to some of the guttural vocals we get, not just here, but throughout the album. And the bridge here showcasing more clean vocals prior to a huge scream and a blast beat that was so dramatic it heads into another tasty lead section where you even get some wonderful trade-offs and beautiful guitar harmonies. And then it ends with a really cool groove riff and rhythm that once again felt like something Soilwork would have done. So the first 3 tracks kinda had a bit of an uplifting feel to it. But then we get into a stretch of songs where things turn adventurous and a little bit somber, but yet still very heavy and aggressive. First off, To Carry My Grief Through Torpor and Silence, some suspenseful, clean guitars right off the bat that kind of remind me a bit of Mastodon or even Gojira. And then the heavy guitars and the bass come in to let you know we're about to get adventurous, and adventurous it got. Into a heavy riff we go before it gets faster, and with blast beats coming in on top. Lots of technical riffing going on throughout this track. A quick fire lead coming in before it returns to the insane aggression before the chorus shows up. And I tell you, the guitars, the drums, and even the vocals throughout this track kind of has an Obscura feel. Like, it gets into Obscura territory after the chorus, which I absolutely love, considering I love Obscura. The lead section has that wonderful balance between technicality and melody, before it transitions into a beautiful acoustic lead with some tribal beats that kind of has a bit of like a South American or a Latin feel to it. That's more like it, a Latin feel. And it kind of also even reminded me of the Latin part in the song Sidewinder by Avenged Sevenfold. And then the bass even gets a little solo, a moment of shine to go along with the acoustic guitars, as my LED light was going bleep 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 when I bring that up. Then it leads into another chaotic lead section that once again harkens back to something Obscura would do. So yeah, this track definitely getting things off, and definitely leading into the next few tracks getting a little more adventurous, a little more diverse, and a little more somber at times. Following that, we get into Vermin. The drums and bass begin the build-up as the riffs eventually comes along, more technical play happening before it unleashes into absolute chaos. And the verse goes back and forth between chaos and groove. While the guitars stay aggressive, more of those subtle background melodies can be heard. The chorus gets slightly epic with the melodic guitars, while the drums are still just going for it every chance it got. Tasty lead trade-offs happening once again, and these leads kind of have a bit of a classic metal flair to it, as they were just shredding along together. Even a second lead section where it gets even more melodic and more shred, and again, more of that Obscura vibe going on with that second lead section. But then we get into my favorite song of the album, Called Home, which was the longest song at almost 8 minutes. Beautiful acoustic guitars once again help get this song started on a somber note as the clean vocals comes in, and the atmosphere that you're getting here at the beginning definitely feels like something Opeth would have done. Big growl and scream and heavy riffs with double bass drumming coming in. This part kind of reminded me a little bit of Black Crown Initiate a little bit, before it gets into a killer groove with the beat and the guitars, once again very Opeth inspired, and even the clean vocals you get and the galloping riffs and a faint organ harkens back to the days of Ghost Reveries. Like the Ghost Reverie era of Opeth is what I kind of picked up with this track. The structure, the riffs, the beats, and the atmosphere maintains that Opeth influence, but Allegaeon does it in their own way, which I love. And then it transitions back to what I was talking about with the Black Crown Initiate inspired parts with the riff and the drums. Big dynamic shift into a clean guitar section that was beautifully done. Then things get somber once again as the clean vocals transition from that more Michael Ockerfeld type of style into a more somber feeling of despair to them, while the drums provide a sense of atmosphere and build-up, and the build-up for the guitars gradually grow, and then it leads into another technical section that feels like classic Allegaeon. Then things get brutal and fast with the vocals and the riffing towards the end. And then the very ending of this song just ends with pure agony with the emotional weight that it carried. So just so much happened on this track, and I loved it for that reason, especially the Opeth parts I really, really loved. Then we get into Blight, some blast beats and chaos immediately right off the bat. Then it turns into this part that sounds a little bit like Behemoth. If you've heard like a Behemoth clean guitar part with like a drum fill going on, you'll kind of get that vibe when you hear this section of the song. Then it gets thrashy with the drums and the guitars in the first half of the verse. Second half of the verse got a little more aggressive, and the chorus even stays in this like technical, aggressive pocket, which was cool. The second verse bringing in some more of the black metal screaming vocals, and it's going back and forth with the guttural vocals. Another sweet lead section with the technical melodic flair of, once again, Obscura. And then it goes back into that kind of Behemoth part from earlier, while a piano solo is going on, which added some classical flair to it. And then after the final chorus, another cool classic metal-inspired shredding lead to come in to conclude this track. Then we get into the Dopamine Void parts. Part 1, which was a little over 2 minutes, mostly an acoustic track these acoustics are really somber, and the clean vocals coming in to carry forth more of that emotion. Beautiful somber lead to enhance that emotional feel. And I love the groove that this first part has with the drums. Beautiful piano solo to conclude part 1 before it gets into Dopamine Void part 2, which goes with these dynamic shifts and the bass going crazy, all leading into technical chaos and big screams coming in. The pre-chorus kind of goes back to a little bit of what you got with Dopamine Void part 1, but with the clean vocals and the bass carrying forward. And then the chorus gets brutal and vicious, unlike most of the choruses you get on this album. Then the riff we have after the second chorus had a little more of that Mastodon vibe that I heard earlier, though it quickly goes back to the chaos that we've been experiencing thus far with this track. More tasty leads coming in towards the end, but more darker this time around. The Saturnine, I think it's Saturnine, haunting ambience and guttural vocals briefly before it leads into like a black metal part with the riffs and the drums. And then the verse turns thrashy and has a little more of a brutal edge to it. The pre-chorus has all three, clean vocals, black metal screams, and guttural vocals going on, leading into an epic and thrashy chorus. And then after the chorus, another crazy lead comes in, probably the best lead section of the album, that says, "Come on, Cage, it's time to blow doors down." And blow the doors down it did, as this lead section has everything: technicality, harmonies, trade-offs, melody, and feel. Best lead section of the album, at least in my mind. Then the penultimate track, the song In Mourning, which, could that be a wink to the band In Mourning? It's pretty much mostly a beautiful and somber acoustic instrumental, and it leads perfectly into the finale, Only Loss, which gets into this like heavy, doomy, epic riff. One of the best riffs of the album, and then the first vocal and clean guitar part, once again, feels very Opeth inspired. And then we get into the heavy verse, kind of sits in that middle ground of the Opeth influence and a little bit of a Black Crown Initiate vibe with the riffs and the drums. And then the chorus, once again, with an atmosphere coming in, and the second chorus bringing in the clean vocals. And the clean vocals here, and also the guitar playing in the second chorus and the final chorus, actually reminds me once again of Soilwork, which was really cool. Afterwards, more technical, thrashy parts coming in with some epic ambience in the background. And the vocals in the pre-verse kind of go back and forth between the screams and the cleans. Blast beats and technical riffing following along with gutturals and screams in the verse. Pre-chorus kind of goes back to that Opeth Black Crown groove before we get into the final chorus. And then we end off with a beautiful, clean guitar outro. So overall, this album, there's a lot going on musically on this album. You got your token Allegaeon elements, the melody, the technicality, little hints of prog, but here it's like they just tried to go for like the sampler platter of melodic death metal, technical death metal, prog metal, and a little bit of brutal death in terms of like some of the breakdowns you get and the super low guttural vocals that Riley is doing on this album. So, and even a little black metal influence. Like I said, there were some black metal tremolo riffs and black metal blasts going on that kind of like, and when I mean with the black metal blasts in this context, kind of reminded me of Borknagar here and there on a couple of tracks. And I love the dynamic shifts and the transitions that this album goes through. And the vocals, like top-notch vocal performance. The screams were very agonizing yet awesome. The gutturals, the guttural and the growl vocals were excellent, and the clean vocals kind of going across the board to like sounding similar to Sven, I think, is the vocalist of Soilwork. I don't know why, I always forget the name of the singer from Soilwork. Let me just go to Metallum real quick. Live facts check. Well, recorded facts check. No, Bjorn. Why do I say Sven? I must be thinking of the guy from Aborted. No, Bjorn from Soilwork. It's like some of the cleans kind of remind me of Bjorn and a little bit of Michael Ackerfeld at times. So, clean vocals. He's going all over the place, Riley. And as well as the unclean vocals, whether it was the black metal screams or the death metal vocals, just going everywhere. Musically speaking, plenty of melody, plenty of heaviness, plenty of technicality. This is a tour de force. So far I've given 2 albums a perfect score, Vicious Nights and Will to Run. I think maybe even a third. Oh yeah, Amorphous. So this, welcome to the perfect 10 out of 10 club for Allegaeon. This is an amazing album. I'm definitely going to get this soon, because again, musically it goes hyper speed technicality, slow grooves, thrashiness. It's musically, this is like everything you want out of death metal or extreme metal as a whole. Some brutality, some melody, some emotion. And there's even some catchiness, like especially that first heavy riff on the closing track, Only Lost. It was so catchy and epic and heavy and doomy. So, yeah, this is an awesome album. Damnum by Allegaeon gets a perfect 10 out of 10 score. But what did you guys think of this album, Damnum by Allegaeon? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, this week, for Under the Radar, I've got a lot to check out for that episode, including a sneak surprise that probably could have gotten its own review, but it'll be in Under the Radar as a little surprise. Even though it's not an Under the Radar band, it's a big band, I wanted to throw it into Under the Radar as kind of like a cameo appearance, so to speak, and I think you guys might know who that band is. But anyways, until next time, horns high, and I will see you soon.
Said Michael was the wait. How was Charles alive again?
I brought him back.
Oh.
Wait, I'm sorry. What? Huh?
Seth,
I didn't even know I was alive.
You brought him back as an innocent person? He's dead. I think he's dead.
Dead! Yes, everybody.
What happened?
Okay, what happened? Okay, let me explain.
Why was Charles survive?
Hold on, let me explain. So, Charles was shooting at me, I killed him, and I bought the defibrillator, and I brought him back, but Seth killed him.
Again.
Sarah killed him and then I killed Sarah.
To be fair,